All right, hey, welcome back. Today I am with Nick White, who is the Access and Conservation Director at Colorado Whitewater, and he's here today to talk about the stream petition access that hopefully everybody has signed or will sign, and it has to do with river access, as you can imagine by the name. So, whatever you did to your algorithm, it's brought you back here. Keep it up. Here we go.
Sweet.
Yeah. All right, so today I'm with Nick White, who is the Access and Conservation Coordinator for American Whitewater here in Colorado, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about his position and what he does, and this new petition that is out that everybody should sign. We'll get more into that later. That has to do with some really asinine river policy access in Colorado and Wyoming, for that matter. So let's get into it. Nick, thanks for joining me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, a little bit of background about yourself. How long you been paddling? Why did you get into American Whitewater in this position, or Colorado Whitewater, excuse me, in this position? And yeah, how long you been in Colorado, and a little background about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started off whitewater boating. I was a raft guide back in Pennsylvania, just outside Pittsburgh on the Lower Yock.
Okay.
I did that for like 3 years. Moved out to Colorado, and had kind of learned how to kayak as a raft guide. Really enjoyed it. Came out here, had a full-time job, so I wasn't going to be a raft guide anymore, but was still doing the kayaking thing. And I found out that Colorado Whitewater offered they would pay for your kayak instructor cert if you agreed to volunteer for a few years. So that was kind of the hook that really got me to join the club originally.
Well, they still do that.
They still do that, yeah. So if you're interested in
Alright.
getting your instructor cert,
I mean, I'm interested in moving my skills forward.
true, totally.
And I used to be an instructor,
Oh, nice.
so
Cool.
I know that like instructing is like the best way to learn
Oh my
something.
gosh, yeah.
Like, you know, so.
And
all
if
right.
nothing else, it's just 5 days in a row to just work on your paddling. When I took that course, it was just
sounds
eye-opening
amazing.
of like, I mean, at the time I was like a 21-year-old, maybe 23.
Yeah.
God, I was the shit, class 5 kayaker. Yeah, I know everything. And then I get into the course and I'm like, oh, I don't know anything. Like, I didn't even know what I didn't know. And so like just getting to see like, oh, okay, how do we break down these skills? Like
Right.
I just learned that, hey, just go do it, as opposed to no, when we're doing our forward stroke, we want to go and have our torso twisted and that top hand engaged and all of these things.
Right.
And so I've loved being an instructor. So I now, I did kind of the instructing thing part-time, volunteered for a few years, and then decided in like 2018, 2019 that I wanted to see if I could get paid to be a kayak instructor.
Yeah.
So I started doing that like nights and weekends around the full-time job, and then COVID hit. And
Right.
when COVID hit, the demand for this stuff just skyrocketed. And so I was like, okay, cool. I went from doing 10 to 15 lessons a year to 10 to 15 lessons in a weekend, or 10 to 15 people called me in a weekend asking for a lesson. And I was just like, okay, it's time. And I quit my job, went full time with this,
Yeah.
and realized that I'm not doing anything in the winters. So I started volunteering more with the club at the board level around that time. Had always been kind of interested in the access and conservation stuff. And the guy who had the job before me was kind of rolling out of it, so I got really involved with a bunch of projects in Colorado.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. So speaking of not knowing what you don't know, I took a class from Nick, and we'll talk more about his business at the end, but man, like I was kicking myself for not having taken a swiftwater rescue course sooner. And I'm surprised he didn't throw a throw bag at me this morning, because he does it every time I see him down at Waterton just about. But yeah, so that's very cool. So today's issue is basically, I've already touched on this on another episode, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth on it today. Colorado has it's a precedent really, it's not even a law, that says you can float through private land, but if you touch the bank, the rock, the river bottom, vegetation, you've committed trespassing. And landowners get their panties in a tight crinkle if they're not used to seeing boaters. And I, being somebody who is, and some friends of mine, they like to go do some more obscure stuff, it starts to get dicey. So that's why I've started doing a deep dive and trying to learn all I can about this so that I'm not inadvertently pissing off people, and trying to at least keep pushing the ball forward towards access, because it's really kind of we've been hamstrung in Colorado with this. And we'll talk more about why it's important in just a second, but Nick is going to probably do a better job at briefing the history of this than I will. So Nick, what is the actual situation now, and what is how did we get here back from the 70s?
Sure. So right now in Colorado, there is no law, no implicit judicial case or anything that says that you're allowed to float through private property. So in Colorado, if a property owner owns both sides of the river, they also own the rocks underneath the river. And they can put up fences, they can make modifications to the bed, as long as they're not pulling water out. There's nothing in Colorado law or the Constitution that says anything that puts any restrictions on them.
Now hold on, can they put I'm pretty sure they can put a fence across the river,
Oh, yeah.
including like a barbed wire fence,
a
low head dam for their irrigation.
Yep. Yeah, so
real hazards.
There have even been some cases where landowners got fed up with kayakers and put a chain link fence blocking the whole river just around a blind corner, so that is an extremely dangerous hazard. So
yeah, the Wigwam Club I think has a chain link fence.
Exactly. They have it's like 12 feet tall with all sorts of signs on it, and goes like through the entire river and like 30 feet on either side of it. It's obnoxious.
We're talking about the Millionaires Club on the South Platte River, and above it and below it you can wade fish, you can paddle, but there's this maybe 1 mile section that they have chain linked off, and they will prosecute you because, well, it's a Millionaires Club, and they've got nothing better to do than to sue boaters. So to talk about like what the status on the ground actually is at this point. Yeah.
A lot of boaters have heard this, hey, as long as you don't touch rocks, you're good. And that comes from a memo from the state attorney general's office back in, I want to say, the 80s.
Yeah.
Where they basically said, as long as a boater doesn't touch rocks, for any reason outside of a safety reason, so everybody kind of interprets that to include wading and scouting, as long as you don't touch the rocks in the river, they aren't going to prosecute. Now,
right.
You notice that that's a very different thing than saying that you can do it. It's just that they won't prosecute you.
Right. It's like a détente, really.
Right. And so a lot of sheriff departments around the state have kind of latched onto that and said, okay, that's the de facto standard that we're all going to follow. Mm-hmm. Does that mean that you can still get arrested? Yes. Does that mean you can still be charged with trespassing? Yes. Does that mean that most sheriff offices aren't going to bother with it? Yeah. So that's kind of the status in Colorado. Most other states in the country are totally different, though.
Yeah.
So most other states,
I think all of them except for Wyoming, maybe.
Even Wyoming. So it's kind of a spectrum.
Yeah.
At the extreme end, you see this more on the East Coast. It's that the government owns the water up to the 10-year high water mark. And when people often assume, a navigable river, there are federal laws that say navigable rivers are public land up to the 10-year high water mark. Navigable is a very touchy subject in Colorado.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, we can come back to that.
We'll circle back around.
Yeah, so so that would be the extreme end. It's navigable, public land up to the 10-year high water mark.
Right.
Wyoming, Montana, some New Mexico, some other states do it's not that it's navigable or public land, it's that there is an implicit easement on private property when rivers pass through them.
And in Wyoming, I paddle a bit up on the North Platte, and it is just the same as in Colorado. You touch the bank, and they're going to come and harass you at the least.
Right.
If they see you.
So yeah, there's weirdly though, Wyoming is still doing better than Colorado.
How so?
I'm not a lawyer. I don't.
Right. Well, just shoot from the hip.
Yeah, shooting from the hip. There are more protections because of. There are more protections for floating, and I believe for wade fishing as well. In Wyoming, don't ask me what they are. I don't know. I just know that it is a better situation than it is in Colorado. Colorado is truly the worst in the country.
Huh. I'll have to ask about that. I have family up in Saratoga.
Oh, nice.
Who are big fishermen, and they drift fish, and they got 3
in the North
rafts.
Platte. It's awesome
yeah, in the
there,
North Platte. And my stepbrother, I asked him about it one day. He's like, we just back row. We can't drop anchor.
Yep.
We can't touch. So I think it's pretty darn similar. I'm not sure what it is, because I know in the North Platte they have some really big multi-trillion-dollar ranches up there. So they are really protective of their fishing access, because they sell fishing access to other millionaires to the tune of a couple thousand a day.
Yep.
So they don't want to see jamokes like you and me running through if they can help it.
Strangely, we've actually been having a bit of pushback from fishing outfitters in the fight in Colorado.
Really?
Because they have already paid for those permissions, and they see it as, well, if we let anybody come in here, then these places that we're paying for are going to be swarmed. I like to think about it as like there's going to be multiple steps to this battle. Let's say.
Yeah.
There's a right to float. There's a right to wade. There's a right to portage. There's all of these different things that we want to make better. And right now, I think realistically, a lot of the fight is on the right to float, and I think a lot of the partners involved who are looking for a right to float have been like full bore carrying this baton. And I think that let's say everything is awesome and we get a right to float in Colorado, the next step's going to be, hey, can we get a right to wade?
Right.
And because there's also going to, there are all these challenges about, hey, you're on public property and you wade into private property. What happens then?
Right. What I was going to say is that I got screamed at on the North Fork of the Pooter once. This lady stopped traffic, came to a screeching halt. You better not be fishing. First, she told me I couldn't even go on the river. And then I educated her briefly. And then she's like, well, you better not be fishing. And then I told her, well, I could do that too, but we're not today, so have a good day. And, you can fish through private land, is my understanding, right?
As long as you aren't touching it.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you're on a boat,
Yep.
This pertains to fishermen too. And there's a lot of drift fishermen out there.
Yep.
Okay. What has been done already? What has been tried already to fix this access situation?
Yeah, so there have been a number of court cases, a number of bills brought to the state legislature over the past, 50 years on this. In recent history, I think about 10 years ago, there was a bill that came about from the river access on the Taylor River for some rafting outfitters. Mm-hmm. The Taylor River out near Gunnison, there are commercial rafting companies out there that wanted access, and a new private landowner came in and started hassling them and giving them closing off areas and putting bridges in that were unsafe to pass by. And so the bill came out to be like, hey, at least let's protect the rafting outfitters and the commercial interests there. And give them an implicit right to do this. That was about 10 years ago. That ended up getting torpedoed at the last second at the state legislature, and kind of got turned into we're going to make a committee to analyze it. And then they did 2 years of that and then made a report that got put on a shelf and never touched again. So that was about 10 years ago. Another thing that in kind of recently is the Roger Hill court case.
Yep.
Roger Hill, fisherman, was fishing on the Arkansas River near Texas Creek, got into the river on BLM land and started wade fishing, walking his way upstream, and eventually crossed over onto private property where the owners of the private property assaulted him with rocks, and I've heard differing stories about if they pulled a gun on him or not.
Yeah, I thought I heard something about that.
Yeah. And so when that happened, he decided to sue the state to say, hey, this should fall under the federal definition of navigable.
Right.
And that case made it, after a long, long time moving its way through the courts, just last year was decided at the Colorado State Supreme Court, where realistically no judge wanted to touch this case.
Right.
Everybody was just like, there's no win there for a judge. Everyone's going to be mad at them. And so what this Colorado Supreme Court decided on was that, well, Roger Hill was never accused of trespassing, therefore he doesn't have standing to bring this case. The only person who could have brought standing to make the arguments that he was making would have been the state of Colorado against the federal government. And so that case was kind of thrown out because he didn't have standing.
Okay, so he didn't get charged with trespassing. He just was suing he was suing the landowner for assaulting him, essentially.
So there were two cases. There was the assault case, and I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that the landowners had a fine or some jail time in the civil case there.
Good.
But then he had a second court case that basically was, hey, this should be a federal land,
Yeah.
Or at least state land. And the Supreme Court said, well, you can't make the arguments that you're trying to make in court because you were never cited for trespassing.
Right.
So that lawyer's looking for any boaters or fishermen who've been cited for trespassing. I can get
What's
you
the
in touch with
trespassing fee? $300? Is that the ticket?
So yeah,
I might know somebody who's willing to go do that.
So if you know anybody who happens to be
Asking
accused
for
of
a friend.
trespassing, I got a lawyer for you.
I got a question related to that
Yeah.
coming up. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, so that kind of circles back around to the Common Waters film that's coming out, right?
Yeah.
Because that was a major point of this film that's coming out. Is it in November?
Yeah. So the film tour starts in November. I believe that there's going to be a showing in can't remember if it's Glenwood Springs or Grand Junction on November 6th. This is going to be the first premiere, and then there's going to be one in Denver on November 19th.
Right. Okay.
And then we'll have more all around the state. We're still getting those all those showings scheduled and whatnot, but we're hoping for at least 2 showings a month all around the state.
God, I hope so. Yeah, that was one of my questions, was how do you guys plan on distributing it and getting it in front of eyeballs? You know, like, can a regular group of people just put on a showing at some random bar, or is it, 'cause
Absolutely, we can make that happen.
it's really about just
Eyeballs.
flooding the zone,
Yep.
with the information. Because I think most people would realize, like, hey, yeah, it's a really petty stance for the landowners and the state to take.
It's at least unique in the United States. Like it's
Well, this idea that you touch a rock and you have committed a sin, it's like, that's petty. That's the same as the corner crossing. Oh, my arm went over the air of a guy's corner of land.
I like to look at it a lot as like
It's greed.
It's an easement for that we're looking for the equivalent of an easement for a road.
Right.
Right? The road passes through your property. The public can drive on that road all they want. Let's have it be the same thing for rivers, right?
Yep.
Let the public flow through this easement, this highway that goes through. Yes, it's still going to be your property. Sure, great.
Right. Well, and as it stands right now, I mean, landowners, they don't. Again, they take a different stance on it. But if you put in on a public easement on a road and you take out at another point of public access, they still seem to think that you have committed some kind of trespass by doing that.
And realistically, that's the only way. Like, nobody's asking for people to be able to walk across private property to be able to put in. So we're only talking about, I put on in public, I took out on public, but there's some private property in the middle.
Right.
So.
Yeah. To anybody listening or watching to this, that is definitely, committing trespass is not the goal of this. Mm-hmm. It's really more about safety and access to a public asset.
Hey, I'm going to pause it right here for just a second. If you watch this far, maybe think about a subscribe. I'm going to try to be serving up more better outdoor content of the serious and not so serious in nature. So stick around, and now back to the show.
So let's talk about this petition. What is it's being brought or floated by the Colorado Stream Access Coalition. Is that right? And Colorado Whitewater is a member of that coalition.
Exactly. So
what is the language of the petition?
Yeah. So the petition is basically telling the state legislators that this is an issue, right? We as the public should have some better protections to be safe when we cross private property. But also that, like, hey, we don't want water rights. We don't want to take away water rights. We don't want to take away private property. It's none of that. Just being very clear of, like, hey, we just want access to this this public good that we have here.
Right.
To be able to float through, to have it be not an issue, not worried about, hey, is somebody going to go and pull a gun on me when I'm crossing on this private property? And so that's really all it's for. And partially, a big part of that is just so that the more numbers we have, the more the legislature knows, hey, this is an issue that affects a lot of people.
Yeah.
So the Colorado Stream Access Coalition was formed of, I think we have like 40 different organizations now that are part of the coalition.
There's a bunch.
Yeah. And Colorado Whitewater and American Whitewater are both, being perfectly honest, two of the major funders of the coalition right now. But we also have backcountry hunters and anglers are a part of it. There's a bunch of rafting outfitters, a bunch of gear suppliers, a bunch of, and honestly, just a bunch of like random members of the public have joined.
Yes, so. Random members of the public join and support these organizations because they are doing some good work to help your access and protect your rights.
If you're interested in joining this, coloradostreamaccess.org.
Yes.
You can sign the petition there. You can join. It's an organization. We'd love to have you.
We'll absolutely link to that and hopefully get some more people to sign it. I know I've signed it. I think I've signed it two or three times by accident. Because a week goes by, I'm like, did I already sign this? I better sign it again.
Well, the other thing that signing it does is it goes and adds you to our mailing list so that when we do go and bring that bill, we can go and email out to everybody on the list saying, hey, now's the time to go and call your legislators. Now's the time to show up for public hearing. Now's the time here's when we're going to have showings of the film. So we really don't send out that many emails with it, but just want to make sure that you're aware so people can help us out in that way.
I made a post about this on Reddit on one of the subs, and a bunch of people were like, oh, I can't believe this is bullshit. You got to give your email up and get on an email list. And I was like, why are you even on a boating forum? You know, like, God, it's not like it's a Walmart mailing list. Yeah. So let's circle back around to navigability.
Yeah.
All of the other states, as far as I know, they have language in their water rights and in their riparian rights that deal with navigability, the navigation of rivers and streams. And almost always it comes down to high water mark is the boundary, generally some kind of high water mark, and can you float a small craft, usually a canoe, down it. That is kind of how they define whether or not the public can make an ingress or egress out of someone's private land vis-a-vis the water, whether it be a lake or stream or a river. Why, in your opinion, why do we want to stay away from using the word navigability? Because I have some questions about that.
Sure.
As to, you know, I mean, I know it has to do with commerce, for one. Historically, it's about commerce. Can you float logs down a river, which has never been done really out west, except for a very few rivers. But other forms of commerce, back in the day, was trapping, moving goods up and down rivers before statehoods. And now we have all of this river commerce with tourism and fishing and rafting and paddling and all of the dollars it brings into the state. Why not update the definition for Colorado of navigability for something in the modern era?
Yeah, so navigability is a term that is defined in federal law, but helpfully it's defined 4 different times in 4 different ways. And so one of the challenges that we have is which definition are we actually talking about when we say a navigable river?
Yeah.
And then the second problem with that is that the Colorado Supreme Court back in the 70s, there was a decision called the Emmert decision where the lawyers made the argument and the court agreed that, quote, there are no navigable waterways in the state of Colorado. And granted, that's based on one of the definitions in federal law and whatnot. But so anytime that we talk about navigability in Colorado, everybody who's at least like mildly aware of kind of where that stands has the Emmert decision in the back of their head. And so if you start from that point of, quote, there are no navigable waterways in Colorado, it's an uphill battle for us.
Right.
So that's one challenge. I think the Roger Hill case is another interesting example. So their lawyers argued that there was, one of the definitions was the river used for commerce before the state became a state. And you mentioned that that's a standard that's kind of hard to meet in a lot of the states in the West.
But we did use the rivers for commerce. I mean,
Right.
the Cache La Poudre is literally a name for the river that comes from the traders, the trappers,
Right.
and traders and Native Americans moving up and down it.
So on the Roger Hill case, their lawyers actually hired a historian to prove on the Arkansas River, yeah, they moved logs from Leadville down to Canyon City to help build the railroads there. And in that court case, the lawyers all agreed saying, hey, this would meet this standard. The challenge is if we're going for navigability, that we also end up with, there might be what's called a taking involved with that.
Yeah.
So if a river happens to meet this standard and some court determines, yes, this is a navigable waterway, well then federal law goes to that, hey, it's public land up to the 10-year high water mark. Well, every landowner on that river now has had their properties taken by the government, and the way our laws are set up now is that the government has to compensate them for that.
Yeah, I see, and this is the thing, and I know we're not lawyers, we're not going to get into this. It doesn't make a rat's ass of difference what we say today, but I'm familiar with some other states, and that's not the case. I mean, the landowners oftentimes they own the bed of the lake or the stream right out to where their property would normally go, like the corner to corner, right? It just means that other people can use that bank to move up and down it, fish and hunt.
So that's where the definition of using the word navigable gets touchy, is because if we say navigable, most people also hear takings. And whether that's true or not, it's going to be up to the lawyers and whatnot. But
so is it a messaging issue?
It's part messaging issue. It's part ambiguity in the law.
Yeah.
Ambiguity in the current state of the court cases. And so in general, this coalition, we are saying we are not hoping for navigability. We're not hoping for takings. That is not the goal. We just want...
We're after an easement.
An easement, the permission to float through, and hopefully think of it like a hiking trail or a road.
Right.
That's all we're hoping for.
Right.
Because navigability is a can of worms that will take a lot of court cases to go and settle.
It's tough because I think, from a layman's perspective, obviously we can navigate Clear Creek here quite easily on an inner tube, and we could navigate a much smaller creek on a paddle craft. And so it doesn't make a lot of intuitive sense as to why the landowners are going to see and hear taking of my land, and I think a savvy lawyer ought to be able to, or legislature ought to be able to carve that out, which actually brings me to my next question is, like, what are some of the other objections that we're going to hear from, or you've already heard from, landowners and other interests on the other side?
A big objection that we're working on is liability. So let's say that the river goes around a bend, a tree falls into the river, it's a strainer, a boater let's say we have this law.
Got an obstacle.
Yeah, so they go into that, they drown. Is the landowner liable for not pulling the tree out of the river?
No. That is the definitive answer, is hellfire no. It's an act of God.
What if they have built some weirs, some fishing weirs to go and help fish habitat in the area, and a boater has to get out of their boat to portage around the weir, and while portaging they break their ankle?
No again.
So these are some of the things that we are having to write into the bill.
Right.
Like that's not like I agree with you. No.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
But the challenge is that that's something that we actually need language for in the bill to go.
Well, I
and
mean, the
to be
landowners
sure
and
of
the people on the folks on the other side are going to take any little bit and they're going to turn it in. They're going to petty it up. That's the right. They're going to fetishize it into something that's like, well, you know, they're going to blow it up when
think
really
similar,
common sense should dictate.
So I think a similar our fight's kind of following the path that a couple of years ago there was a court case where there was a the Air Force Academy has a bunch of mountain biking trails on property, and there was a sinkhole that opened up on one of them and they didn't know about it, and a general member of the public on their mountain bike came along around a corner, went into the sinkhole and had huge medical expenses from this. Really got injured very badly. And the bikers sued the Air Force Academy and won, saying that the Air Force Academy is liable for damages on this trail.
Now, wait, did they win or did the Air Force Academy just settle just to be done with it?
They explicitly won.
They went all the way and got a judgment.
They got a judgment and they won. And so when that happened, one of the things that got the most media attention that changed with that was trails up 14ers. A bunch of the trails up 14,000 foot peaks, some of them go across private property, and all of a sudden when the landowners of those private property heard, if somebody trips and falls on our trail, on the trail that's through our property, we could be liable. Well, they just shut down access.
Right.
And so it went to the state legislature, bill a couple of years ago that said, hey, let's see if we can fix this. And that bill got neutered pretty significantly in committee. There's now, I don't know the details on it, but it's you can have, as long as you have a sign up on all access points, you have some protections, but not all. And it wasn't where the community wanted it to go, to have like general protections of, hey, private property owners are not liable for the public crossing across their property, is where we wanted it to be.
Yeah. And
it turned into this, well, you have to have a sign and you have to meet all of these other things. And so we're effectively rehashing that fight, because we just want it to be, hey, if the public's passing through on a river, then they can't sue the landowner either. We don't want that.
Right.
So
objections. So getting back to the liability thing, I mean, I just want to point out that, like, given that there's so many other states that have better access laws, you don't hear about landowners suing people, hunters, fishermen in other states because they, broke their ankle on a stream bed on their property. Like, they've been able to deal with this somehow.
I mean, one of the challenges is realistically is like trial lawyers have lobbyists and want to be able to sue for stuff like this. So
lawyers are the problem.
I mean, I'm not going to say, I don't want to get on anybody's bad side, but all I'm saying is that there are a lot of different user groups who have strong opinions in here, and some of them are very strong lobbyists.
Right.
So,
right.
Status quo definitely benefits some people.
Oh boy, yeah, legislation. I mean, I'm hopeful that they can resolve this, because I mean, I grew up in Colorado and I've been dealing with this ever since I started paddling. I've been running into this issue, and there's so many potential runs out there. Like, I'm thinking like above Bailey, upper, like from Roberts Tunnel down.
Yeah,
looks like an incredible Class 2, Class 3-ish. Or like the Poudre River out on the plains. Like, there's lots of flat water out there that you could totally paddleboard or canoe and fish, if only you weren't going to get your tit in the ringer for it. So
I've been shot at on the South Platte River out near Brighton before.
wow, really?
Yep.
Tell me about that. That was one of my questions. Is do you have any good stories about
Yeah, so I have
landowners?
two. One of them, so we were floating through the Brighton to Fort Lupton section, and it's the South Platte River northeast of Denver, and weirdly, like, it gets kind of a bad rap because it's kind of going through an industrial area, but realistically, when you get on there, it kind of drops down into it low enough that you can't really see a lot of that stuff. It's kind of, there's 2 Class 2s on it. And you get amazing views of Rocky Mountain National Park, and weirdly, you get some of the best wildlife on any stretch of river in Colorado. I've seen eagles, I've seen elk, I've seen turkeys, I've seen otters, I've seen beavers, I've seen like all of this stuff.
It's a real gem.
Oh, it's like you wouldn't expect it from where it is, but I've really enjoyed every time I've gotten to paddle it. But I wouldn't go there during duck hunting season ever again.
Really?
We came around a corner there, and there were a bunch of hunters in a blind who'd set up probably 50 duck decoys in the river, and we had to float through the duck decoys, and these guys, I'm gonna guess, had a few beers at that point. And one of them, after we passed through, one of them fired his gun just as kind of like
let it off.
Yeah. In our general direction, and then when that happened, they sicked their dog on us.
Really?
Yep. And so we just turned on the gas and paddled around the corner, and the dog.
Like, how do you mean they sicked their dog on you? Because I mean, I've dealt with lots of dogs before. Like they just kind of let it go, or
Yep.
they like intentionally were like sick balls, chopper sick balls.
I mean, so their dog was a duck hunting dog. And
Right, it's a
knew
bird
that
dog.
hey, after you shoot, if I get released after they fire the gun, I go get the bird.
Right.
And so they fired the gun and let the dog go, and so it started chasing us down the river.
It was chasing you guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that's a little out of character for like a bird dog.
I agree.
But there are some that are vicious and aggressive though.
And so, I mean, realistically, once it had to start swimming, it was never going to keep up with us. But
Right.
It was still like a kind of terrifying situation to be in. But we made it around the corner and just had like a moment of silence of like, what do we even do about that? Like,
Right.
There's nothing that we can't make a police report because it's like, oh yeah, we were hunting. Like
No.
and so we didn't actually report anything or anything. But that was one of the bad issues I've dealt with. Another one would be on Bailey.
Yeah.
Years ago, it was some landowners there thought that they owned Four Falls Rapid, and I was rafting that with my wife, and we got pinned on a rock in the middle of the rapid. And this was during Bailey Fest. The landowners were out there just making a hard time for everyone and doing everything in their power to just make it difficult without touching anyone. And we got pinned on this rock, and a woman yelled, "I hope you fucking die," while we were pinned on this rock in the middle of a Class 5 rapid.
The lack of humanity in some of these people, there's the greed, I guess, you
Yeah.
know, it's just, that's insane.
That one, thankfully, due to some amazing work by some paddlers, they were able to get the Forest Service to do a survey, and turns out that wasn't actually the private property. That rapid's actually owned by the Forest Service, and so there's a bit of karma, I feel like, that came about from that one at least.
That's great. I guess that's a good ending to it. So skipping along here, have you spoken with any landowners or other parties that are interested in maintaining the status quo? Like, have you tried to present this? And if so, like, have you gotten what kind of pushback have you gotten?
Yeah, so realistically, I think that a lot of people would like to have the current status quo just turned into law. Like we mentioned at the beginning, how we have all of these kind of interpretations based off that one legal memo from the state attorney general 40 years ago or whatever. And I think that even the landowners would, at least a lot of the ones that we've talked to, would like it to just be like, oh, if that's the rule, let's just make a law for it.
Right.
A lot of the pushback ends up coming from, not necessarily from the right to float, it comes from, hey, well, what about wading? They don't really want people walking on their property? Or what
Yeah.
about the liability concerns? Or what about walking and portaging? Just a basic, let's take the status quo and turn it into a law about ability to float through. We haven't really gotten much pushback about that from anybody, which has been really nice to hear. It's just all of the weeds that we have to wade through to get the rest of this done. And what does that bill actually look like? That I think that's a lot of the other little things are going to be where we have challenges.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say that it probably feels a little bit like a slippery slope to some landowners. Like,
Yep.
what if you allow people to float legally? Then how do you deal with the fishermen? And if they have to get out to, unhook a fish or untangle or their anchor, and I can see them thinking, in a few years they're going to have people camping on their banks and not be able to do anything about it, which is obviously not the case.
Another thing, though, that we've with the landowners that we've talked to is recognizing that, there are some members of the public that are terrible stewards of land.
Right.
And I recognize that. The coalition recognizes that. We want to work with people to help on the education front.
Yeah.
Colorado Whitewater does some great work with this. American Whitewater has some really nice educational materials on how to be a good land steward, clean up after your trash, use wag bags to pack out your waste. All of these, and so we want to be part of the solution to help landowners feel like we can go and all be good stewards.
Be responsible.
Yeah, like if there's a landowner who's worried about trash on their property, I would love to bring a team of 15 volunteers in there and help clean up trash.
Totally. The education part, I mean, obviously we could really do a deep dive into, people acting really irresponsibly in the outdoors. But as far as the paddling community goes, do you think more outreach needs to be done and education needs to be done there? Or is it kind of from people who are just getting into boating or coming from other sectors of the outdoor world? Like, where does the emphasis need to be?
Yeah, so I think that there's always going to be people who have never had that education.
Right.
Right. I look at even really popular whitewater runs, the Upper Colorado, right? They've had waste problems on that for years in all the campgrounds, right? Yep. The amount of toilet paper flowers that you see on that run is problematic sometimes.
Flowers.
And so I think that this is an ongoing problem, but I think that it's an education challenge.
Yeah.
And I think Colorado Whitewater, American Whitewater, we want to be part of the solution to help people learn how to be, I think the way to say it is good stewards of the land.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think of a lot of places that I've heard about in Europe where they have this right to roam. And I think, though, that they also have somewhat more of a more mature stance. Like the public that uses the land has a mature stance. Of course, more airplanes right overhead right now. But, there's more of an ethos of, leave it untouched, leave it as you found it, and leave it in better shape than you found it, which is what I always grew up. That's how I grew up camping. Mm-hmm. However, I think America is kind of like the teenager of the world in some ways, and just has not matured enough to realize, I can't burn my beer cans, and I shouldn't bring glass on the river, and so yeah, I think there is just still a long ways to go as far as education goes. Mm-hmm.
But we can work on that.
We can do it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's totally doable. Yeah, absolutely. And the more the public, I think, partakes in the outdoors and appreciates the outdoors, the easier it is to get people on board with, let's not leave our garbage here, and let's not take a piss on the side of the river and drop trout right at the landowner's house.
Right in front of their door,
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of some stuff. What about law enforcement? Have you talked to any law enforcement as far as about this?
I have not been part of any of those conversations.
What have you heard?
I think what I've heard, it kind of boils down to that it'd be nice to have it not just be this memo. Let's have it actually be a law. Let's get everybody on the same page. I think a lot of times law enforcement just appreciates clarity in the law and what can people do and what can't they. And I think that really will be helpful in that front.
Yeah. Have you seen, I know since COVID there's been this massive uptick in outdoor usage and recreation. Have you seen any increase in hostility either from the outdoor community or from the landowners given the increased pressure on certain corridors? I, for one, have felt hostile myself, I'll just admit it. I don't think I've made anybody mad yet, but I feel militant sometimes, I'll be honest.
I mean, I definitely, I'd say, as Access and Conservation Director at CW, like, people email me and say, hey, this landowner went and was yelling at me, is this okay? Like, was I doing something wrong? What's the deal here? So I've gotten those emails forever. We get those emails every year. So I think that there's definitely been an increase in usage. I definitely agree with that. And being perfectly honest, I think that has meant, we talked about the public education. I feel like at the same time that there was this increase in usage, there was this decrease in funds for education.
Right, it hasn't caught up.
Yeah. So like, I think about the Forest Service. The Forest Service has had to cut rangers. They've had to cut.
And that was before this year.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that they're, where with the increase in usage, we would have hoped that the amount of money available to help educate the public would have gone up. It has instead been level or gone down. And so I think that hasn't helped things in either direction, realistically.
Yeah. Well, I imagine the amount of revenue has gone up, but it's getting siphoned off, and budgets are getting cut. Where like licenses, permit fees, permits, all that's up. So the revenue's up, but the budgets at the same time seem to have been getting slashed. That's a whole nother side rant. So we'll just move on. Where can people go to give their story if they do get harassed by landowners, or if you're a landowner, if you've had some bad boaters, like where do you go for that?
Yeah, so if anyone wants to reach out to me, access at coloradowhitewater.org. They can email me. I want to hear stories. I want to hear stories from landowners. I want to hear stories from boaters. American Whitewater also has a Google form that they're collecting stories of bad interactions in either direction. And so they're trying to make like a mini database of here are the sections that are problematic. And
that's great.
Where we've been seeing that. So
that could go a long way just as far as educating pockets of private ownership and pockets of boaters too, or other recreators for that matter. Besides signing the petition, which we will put up here, there, down below somewhere, what else can people do other than throw money at organizations, which is obviously what every organization needs because they're all nonprofits. But what can people do when they've signed the petition, maybe donated or joined an organization? Is there anything else that they could do that would make a difference?
Honestly, if people signed the petition and joined Colorado Whitewater and American Whitewater, I would be thrilled. That would be amazing.
So if you're a mountain biker, join Colorado Whitewater.
Realistically, though, what the biggest thing that signing the petition does, I think, is add you to our mailing list and allows us to activate you when we need people to call their legislators, when we need people to show up at a public hearing, when we need people to put pressure on legislators, say this is the thing we need. That's how we're going to get in touch with people.
Is there any list of legislators or officials that people could contact right now?
So at the Colorado State House, there's a group that calls themselves the Outdoor Recreation Caucus.
There's a whole committee on this.
I don't know if it's a committee
caucus,
or
whatever.
You're right. They're a group that likes to vote together as a block for outdoor recreation issues.
Is it bipartisan by any chance?
It is. Yep.
Okay.
And they have been extremely supportive of us so far.
Good.
They would, any of those legislators would be amazing people to reach out to if you have any feelings about this.
Okay. Asking for a friend, if a guy was going to run the section of the Platte, the North Fork above Bailey, would you recommend that they call Johnny Law first and let him know, just to sort of, how would you go about that? Because I personally have had my eye on that for a while as a solid Class 3 guy.
So I'll start off by saying the people I know who have been in there say it was a lot of fish weirs.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so
I still want to go see it, though.
right. I kind of do too.
Yeah, and there's one really good looking drop right at the beginning. I'm just like, oh, that. It looks Class 4 to me, but I'm like, I think I'd try it.
So for one, that there is just a little bit of public land, the mile and a half above Bailey.
Yeah.
You can definitely, there's some public land you can put in and float that. If you're gonna go upstream, honestly, calling the sheriff's office ahead of time and say, hey, it wouldn't be a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's kind of what I would think. I mean, I kind of wish I'd done that on the North Fork of the Pooter. Because we got ran off by a landowner trying to put in above where most people put in, because there's still good river up there to float.
Right.
So yeah, I might try that, just preemptively calling the law so that I can tell a landowner, hey, look, don't shoot me. The law knows I'm here.
I think another important consideration with that, though, is just being 100% sure that you are putting on public land and taking off on public land.
Absolutely.
Right?
You got to do that. That's our responsibility for
yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. We are by no means endorsing trespassing. That is not what this is about. All right. Is there anything else we've missed on this subject? Anything else that you want to cover or let people know?
We'd love to have anyone's support. Sign up, coloradostreamaccess.org.
Get off your ass.
Yeah, sign up.
Get on
sign
the keyboard.
Petition, and come out to the film fest. When Common Waters gets released,
it looks like it's going to be a good film.
I think it's going to be great.
Yeah.
The Roger Hill is featured in it, the fisherman who brought the court case. He is a character. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the trailer for it ends with him saying, if I couldn't go and fish for one more day and God told me I couldn't fish anymore, I would immediately begin negotiations with the devil over what my soul was worth in fishing days.
Yeah, I know, it's a great quote.
Yeah.
It's true though. I think that's how a lot of us feel. You know, I mean, I've started to count my own days on the land, because that's what matters to me. Is it's not how many days I spend at work. Well, that's been great. This has been really good. So thank you so much. And if people want to get a hold of you and they need some kayaking instruction, and let's talk for a minute about your own personal business, because it's cool. And believe me, everybody needs some instruction.
I own Whitewater Workshop right here in Golden, Colorado. We teach roll classes in a pool up in Idaho Springs. We do private kayaking lessons to really dial in skills, and a lot of swiftwater rescue classes. So we offer those pretty much April through August, September time frame. And then the roll classes in the pool are year round. So this winter, if anybody's looking to go and work on their roll, come on out. Love to have you.
I am. Yeah, I've tried to go to the ones that are in Lakewood there, but it never works out with my family schedule. So that's cool. All right, great. Well, I will be sure and put your contact info somewhere in this media. And are there any other nonprofit organizations that people should be aware of? I always try to plug Colorado Whitewater, American Whitewater, ProtectOurRivers.org, BHP, BPA, CPCW, all those acronyms. I just made some of those up. But yeah, what are your favorites?
I think American Whitewater does a great job. And American Whitewater is also a member of what's called the Outdoor Alliance, which is, I couldn't name them all, but American Whitewater is partnered with a whole bunch of other organizations from the mountain biking world, from the hiking world, from the hunting world, from the fishing world, from all of these different outdoor organizations to pool resources at the federal level.
Right.
And so they do a fantastic job. American Whitewater realistically spends more money per capita in Colorado than any other state.
Really? Well, that's because we have this arcane
issues. Yeah.
system that we've been talking about. Other states are more, they can just set it and forget it.
So Colorado actually has 3 full-time staff, or American Whitewater has 3 full-time staff in Colorado alone.
Was it Kestrel?
Kestrel, Hattie, and Evan.
I talked to Kestrel and Hattie about the film a while back on this.
Yep. So yeah, Hattie's been doing 20 hours of work a week on just this issue.
Yeah.
And working with the coalition, she's been instrumental in keeping that.
And they're pretty much all volunteers, right? Or are they paid?
Those 3 are all paid. That's their full-time gig.
Okay, good.
So I'm volunteer with Colorado Whitewater, but
right. Right. Okay. Cool.
That said, Colorado Whitewater also has done a ton of stuff in the state just for improving stuff for whitewater boaters. This year alone, 2 really big wins that we had. We donated money to start the planning phase for a dam removal down near Canyon City.
Cool.
That will make it, it's the last dam on the Arkansas between all the way from Twin Lakes all the way to Pueblo, or Lake Pueblo.
Where is the dam?
It's just downstream of Canyon City. So most people have taken out from the Royal Gorge in Canyon City. Just below there's like 2 or 3 miles that you can do, but nobody goes past that because of this dam.
Mm-hmm.
If that dam weren't there, it would add another probably, 15, 20 miles.
Well, they could go to Pueblo.
Yeah, you can go all the way to Lake Pueblo. And that section, the parts of it I've seen have just been really nice Class 2.
And there needs to be a lot more of that, honestly, because
Mm-hmm.
I have found in my own boating experience, I have lots of friends who are paddlers, but they are light years ahead of me in terms of their skill. And then there's a whole ton of people who are like well below, but they don't have a whole lot of places to go other than like Chatfield and some other lakes. And yeah, there just needs to be a lot more mellow sections, especially if you have kids.
Yeah. And that one's going to be really nice because that one runs year round.
Yeah.
That one has enough water year round, even after the guaranteed flows to fall off. So
the St. Vrain has enough water year round, sometimes in the winter, to paddle it. It's not a lot, but it's definitely enough that you could paddleboard it.
Yeah.
And and have a good time.
Yeah.
So
another big win that Colorado Whitewater's had this year for people who are those more advanced boaters, up on Clear Creek, just upstream of here, at Tunnel 1 in Clear Creek Canyon. There used to be a dam for the Welch Ditch, and that dam was a solid 5+ rapid, ran a couple times a year.
So it's gone now.
The dam is still there, but it has been filled in behind it, which has turned it from this terrible terminal hole into this really fun Class 3 wave train.
Awesome. I still, because I'm a chicken, I still have not paddled above Tunnel 1.
So the nice thing about this is that you can go, generally above the dam there's a Class 4 rapid, screaming quarter mile. There is a little dirt pull-off that you can pull it off and then just jump the wall over to the bike trail there, put in just above the dam, get the 3+ of the dam, get like 6 or 7 Class 3 rapids around Tunnel 1.
That makes it so much better for an afternoon paddle.
Oh yeah, it's a fantastic run. So,
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yep. So
that's awesome.
That was truly 40 hours of my life meeting with the...
So you were one of the main guys behind that, huh?
Yep. Yep.
Or were you the main guy?
I was the main guy.
You were the main guy
for that. So
well,
yeah,
thank you for that. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Working with the trail builders there to make life better for us.
Good work. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I mean, that story does give me hope that, even just random jamokes can get stuff done if they have enough will to do it and if there's some public will around it.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I know you're up on this. What is the situation with the Two Forks Dam, I think it's called, that would be going in above Strontia?
So yeah, for those who don't know, the Two Forks Dam was
This is on the Platte River.
This is on
South
the
Platte.
South Platte River. Would have gone in for boaters in the group. It would go in. It was originally proposed to go in right in the middle of Waterton Canyon.
Oh, well, that's where
the boating section.
Where you would engineer it. Is right there.
And the biggest version of it would flood all of the Deckers stretch all the way up to the town of Deckers and all of the Foxen stretch up to the town of Buffalo Creek. That largest version of the dam was vetoed by the EPA back in, I want to say the late 80s, early 90s, something like that. But it was still left on the books for a possible smaller version. And that smaller version, those river sections have been deemed eligible for wild and scenic status.
Yes.
I mean,
we got to push that, man. That is some really good protection.
well, so the agreement that basically keeps the dam out of there was that after many years in court, the settlement was eventually that, okay, the dam builders won't pursue a dam for 20 years, and the environmentalists wouldn't pursue wild and scenic status for 20 years.
Wait, why did we agree to that?
Because they also were pitching in $1 million for other improvements.
Okay.
So
wait, who is pitching $1 million? The
Denver Water.
Denver Water.
Denver Water put up $1 million for the South Platte Protection Plan and the South Platte Enhancement Board.
Okay.
So there is, so that agreement was made in 2004. 20 years got us to 2024. In 2024, I was part of the negotiations on what happens next, where basically we negotiated and said, okay, we're going to extend that 20 years another 10 years. We were waiting for a study of Denver Water's supply and demand, and that study was supposed to come out, I believe, next year. Might be 2 years. But once that study comes out, we agreed, hey, let's revisit this. We'll probably extend it out, the moratorium on the dam out another 20 years. So
it's not safe. It's just been postponed.
Yeah, and that's 20. That's currently 10 years. What would that be? 2034 would be the earliest that Denver Water could even think about asking for a permit for it.
Yeah.
And then it's going to, I mean, think about how long just the expansion at Gross Reservoir has taken, right? It's been 20 years on that.
Right.
So we're talking minimum 20 years until this is like an actual flooding of anything. But it's something that Colorado Whitewater and American Whitewater are going to
I don't want to
stay
see
on.
that. I mean,
don't
my family homesteaded in that area in the 1870s. Yeah.
Very cool.
And so I have a pretty deep connection to that area right there. And in fact, I still have family that has land in that section, on the Deckers section. So I don't want to see it get flooded. In fact, so we got 10 years to get more people, I guess, hooked on that section, on those rivers. Which, by the way, the section from, was it Pine Valley Ranch down to Buffalo? So the Swan Hereford Ranch, that's owned by the Denver Water, I think.
I've heard different things there. I know that the landowners there are very anti-boaters.
I think it's Denver Water. I think that's just a caretaker.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's just a zealot caretaker. I think. I mean, don't quote me on that, but that was the last I heard, was that Denver Water owned that property there.
So yeah, I know Denver Water did a lot of work on the North Fork when they put in the tunnel. They wanted to make sure that there was basically no wetlands there that would go and be taking their water after they went and pumped it through there. So that entire river section has been channelized way more than it would naturally be. Normally, if anybody's driven up like Kenosha Pass, you see all the beaver dams and stuff up there. That's what that river would have been all the way to the bottom.
Right.
If it weren't for Denver Water going in the 1970s.
They don't want any water soaking into the ground.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I get it. We need water on the Front Range and whatnot. I mean, I don't think necessarily taking more water out of the river is always the way to go.
The reason that we have a late season on Foxton and Bailey is because of that that dam and that tunnel. So I have trouble fighting that too hardly.
Right. Anyways, all right, Nick, thanks so much, man.
Absolutely.
It was great, dude.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. All right.